Bonjour et bienvenue à notre rendez-vous quotidien pour la presse en ligne et en direct sur EBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le mercredi 10 mars. Je passe d'abord la parole à Stéphane qui a une annonce pour nous avec avec de bonnes nouvelles du côté des vaccins. Stéphane.
Bonjour tout le monde. Et en effet, des bonnes nouvelles concernant le vaccin. En effet, la Commission a conclu un accord avec BioNTech Pfizer pour la livraison de 4 millions de doses supplémentaires de vaccins Covid-19 aux États membres afin de lutter contre les hotspots du coronavirus. Les États membres pourront acheter 4 millions de doses qui seront disponibles au cours des 2 semaines prochaines au prorata de leur population. Toutes ces doses seront livrées avant la fin du mois de mars. Ces doses s'ajoutent au calendrier des livraisons actuellement convenues entre les États membres et BioNTech Pfizer. Et comme d'habitude, vous allez trouver plus d'informations sur notre Press Corner dans un communiqué de presse en ligne. Merci.
Merci Stéphane. Je passe maintenant la parole à Daniel. Une annonce on Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can see and hear me. The Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation, the SFDR, comes into effect today, the 10th of March. This is a cornerstone of the Commission's action plan on sustainable finance. Now, while there is growing recognition of the importance of sustainability and the awareness of climate-related risks and opportunities, the type of information that is provided to investors in the financial sector has been limited up until now and has varied from one member state to another. First proposed by the Commission in May 2018, these new rules that are entering into force today will strengthen and improve how sustainability-related information is disclosed in the financial sector. It aims to promote responsible and sustainable investments while discouraging greenwashing. This is part of the EU's overall efforts under the Sustainable Development Agenda and the Carbon Neutrality Agenda, as well as our commitment to the Paris Agreement. The main aim, ultimately, is to ensure that the financial sector throws its full weight behind the fight against climate change. Thank you.
Merci Daniel. Permettez-moi également de vous rappeler que nous aurons encore un briefing technique à 15h cet après-midi sur le rôle du responsable européen du respect des règles du commerce qui a été récemment nommé par la Commission européenne. Enfin, je voudrais terminer ces annonces par une nouvelle très triste qui nous est parvenue hier, le décès vendredi dernier de Michel Aguirre Amantegui. Figure historique de la salle de presse d'abord, où Michel a exercé à partir de 1983 pour Radio Euskadi, puis pour EITB, la radio et télévision publique basque, et d'autres médias. Michel a aussi voyagé puisqu'il a été en poste à New York, à Sarajevo et à Maastricht. En 2003, Michel a rejoint la Commission pour travailler dans l'unité de veille des médias. C'était un grand professionnel, j'ai eu l'honneur de travailler avec lui sur la veille des médias à l'époque. C'était un grand professionnel qui connaissait les médias européens comme sa poche. Ceux d'entre vous qui le connaissaient savent que Michel a connu des hauts et des bas, mais il s'est toujours battu et n'a jamais renoncé à son amour, d'une part pour les médias et d'autre part pour la construction européenne. Et je ne crains pas de dire qu'il était d'une certaine manière une institution à lui tout seul. Nous avons tous en tête sa silhouette descendant et sortant du bâtiment pour fumer sa clope ou boire son café. Je voudrais ici aussi dire merci à toutes celles et ceux qui l'ont soutenu et accompagné dans ces épreuves. Discret, drôle et souvent caustique, Michel a fait face à tout avec un flegme inébranlable. Mais cette amitié qui lui a été témoignée par son entourage lui a été précieuse. Il va nous manquer. Adios et agur, Michel. Et avec ceci, nous pouvons passer à vos questions. Et je passe la parole à Athanasios.
Thanks very much. Bonjour. Actually, I have two related questions. Do you follow the story with AstraZeneca and the allegedly bad batch of vaccines that was found in Austria and potential alleged recalls of these bans around the other member states. Is that true, or is it just a hoax? Could you please help us out with this thing? And secondly, on your 4 million extra doses with the Pfizer and BioNTech new deal that you've signed, is there some extra different guidance that you're going to give to the member states for the usage of these vaccines? Clearly, in your press release, you say that it's for the hotspots and for the facilitation of border movement. By hotspots, I mean the areas where there is concentration of the virus and not those that are linked with the migration thing. Do you offer some extra guidance on the way they're going to use it, or is it up to them to use it in the usual way as they do for the other bunches of doses and so forth? Thanks.
Thank you, Athanasios. On your second question, no, we're not providing specific guidance on how member states should be using these doses of vaccines. We trust, of course, the member states to implement, to use these doses to the best of their ability and corresponding to the needs that they think are the most important. On your first question, I pass the floor to Stéphane.
Thank you very much. Bonjour, Athanasios. With regard to this case that you have referred to, I think it's important to note that the European Medicines Agency obviously continues to follow closely the situation, also the use of the vaccines. One of the advantages of having the vaccines going through an assessment by EMA is that this assessment and the market authorization comes with ex post monitoring obligations, as we say in ugly English, meaning that we continue, or rather EMA continues to monitor the use of the vaccine also after the authorization of the vaccine has been done. So this is something that the European Medicines Agency is doing. As far as reactions of member states are concerned, of course, this is up to member states to see. And for that, I would advise you to contact the member states as to which steps they have or have not taken. Thank you.
Thank you. We continue on the issue of vaccines, vaccination-related issues. James.
Oh, excuse me. James Franey, Daily Mail. Does the European Commission believe that the UK has a ban on the export of vaccines? Thank you.
Thank you, James, for your question. I've answered this question quite a few times already here in the press room, as I'm sure you'll remember. Remember that the President of the European Commission had a phone call with Boris Johnson some time ago, during which he assured her that the UK did not have any issue when it came to the delivery of vaccines to the European Union. Nick.
Thanks very much, Eric. Good morning. Just to follow up on that, does the Commission support the comments of President Charles Michel, who does think that the UK has an outright ban on vaccine exports? And what does the Commission think of the criticism of him, people who've said that such a comment is damaging the increasingly fractious relationship between the UK and the EU at this sensitive moment? Thank you.
Thank you. As you know, we have a policy of not commenting on other people's comments. Clearly, the situation when it comes to the export of vaccines depends very much on the countries concerned. As far as the European Union is concerned, you know what our policy is, and we will limit ourselves to that. Alexander.
Hi, thanks. My question concerns the German vaccine passport scheme. On Monday, in the official European register, the German government announced they would give a contract to IBM for a blockchain-based vaccination certificate. And I was wondering basically two things. One, is the Commission aware of the German effort, and how does it see that effort in relation to the Green Pass scheme that the Commission is set to announce next week? And the other question is, does the Commission already have any thoughts on especially using the blockchain technology for that purpose?
Thank you, Alexander. No, we have absolutely no comment to make on how member states are going to implement the technical solutions that will be necessary for the certificate to function. As you know, there is an agreement between the member states on the sets of data which would need to be recorded in these systems for the certificate to work. But then the exact technical specifications of how this is going to work in an individual member state are up to that member state. Of course, we have said that it would be good for the systems to be interoperable so that the data can actually be used for the purpose of the certificate. Joe.
Thank you, Eric. Can I go back to the issue of the British vaccine ban, apparently? Nicole Mannion, I think is pronounced, the Deputy Head of Mission in the UK, has met with her UK counterpart in the Foreign Office this morning. Have you got a readout of this meeting, please? And did she apologise for your colleagues across the road's comments last night, please? Thank you.
Thank you. A question for Peter.
Hi, good afternoon. I can confirm that the Chargé d'Affaires of our delegation in London was invited for a meeting at the Foreign Office, but since meetings between foreign diplomats and the representatives of foreign ministries in a given country are part of their everyday work, we don't have the habit to publicly comment on the content of such discussions.
Thank you, Peter. Catherine. Follow-up, Joe, sorry.
No worries, Eric. I was a bit slow. If you won't comment on the meeting, would you like to take the chance to apologise now for what the British have said is a completely false claim by a European Union member? I know it's not comments made by the Commission, but you have sent one of your representatives to hold talks on it this morning. Thank you.
Joe, we have no further comment to make to what we have said until now. Catherine.
Hello. Hi. Hello, Eric. Hi. I'm just wondering, do you have, I mean, you have some overview or some oversight of how many vaccines are exported from the EU? Do you have an insight into how many vaccines have been exported from the UK to the EU at this moment? Do you have a figure that you can put on that? And if this amount is zero, as I see some are speculating, does that amount to a tantamount? I mean, is that tantamount to an outright ban?
Unfortunately, no, I cannot give you figures of imports of vaccines to the European Union. It's not for us to comment on what is tantamount to a ban or not. Look, the fact is that we have many discussions here in the press room on the delivery schedules for vaccines in the European Union. You know that at the same time, the European Union is an exporter of vaccines. Miriam has had the opportunity of giving you regular updates of the number of countries to which we have been exporting, the number of decisions that have been taken. So what we know for certain is that we are a big player in terms of supplying doses of vaccines to our partners across the world. And we certainly want this to continue. We have said that this will continue provided companies that have APAs with us, of course, fulfill their obligations vis-à-vis the European Union. And of course, we hope that the global supply chains that help the production of vaccines will remain open so that everybody can benefit from the vaccine as quickly as possible. Bruno.
Thank you, Eric. I understand why you wouldn't want to stand up there and comment on statements made across the road yesterday. I'm with you on that one. I certainly wouldn't want to. But based on what your boss Ursula von der Leyen has said. She said on February the 25th that the United States have an executive order, which is a kind of export ban, and a similar system is in place in the UK. Could you tell us what that similar system is, given that quite self-evidently there are no legal requirements for pharmaceutical companies to declare any exports? You can look on the business pages of newspapers, both European newspapers and British newspapers, and see that companies in Britain are very much involved in the manufacturing chain for Pfizer, for example. So it's clear that Britain doesn't restrict the export of vaccine components as part of that. So could you just spell out a little bit about what your boss meant and what she was talking about there? And also, perhaps, would you accept the argument that, and there's no criticism involved in this, but Pfizer does have a centralised European-based manufacturing capacity, whereas the whole idea with AstraZeneca, the only approved vaccine that's made in the UK, was to develop, through funding by British taxpayers, global capacity in countries like India and Australia. If you could give us a bit of detail on what you think, rather than what we know Mr. Michel thinks, that would be very useful. Thank you.
I'm certainly not going to comment on the manufacturing and supply chain models that have been defined and developed by different companies. That is really their business. The President of the Commission referred to measures or policies that relate to various dimensions of the fight against COVID. And we know that different countries have got different measures in place. This does not concern vaccines, as far as we understand, coming from the United Kingdom. But we know as well that we, the European Union, are a very, very active exporter of vaccines, and that this is not necessarily the case of all our partners. Angela.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. Okay. Yes, it's about the US export ban. It was decided by the Trump administration, as we know, but as now the EU has chosen the way of a strategic cooperation with the United States, I was wondering whether you had reassurances by Washington that this ban is going to be lifted, or if Breton has had any reassurance about this in his call with Zient, his American counterpart, the other day. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. I would refer you to the comments which Thierry Breton made here at this very podium, in fact, yesterday in the press room on the first call that he had with his American counterpart. And on the fact that indeed we are cooperating with our American partners on vaccines, on vaccines, and that together we are certainly the biggest producer of vaccines worldwide, as he yesterday said. So our objective is to make sure that we can continue this cooperation in the future, which is why we are discussing with them bottleneck issues, for example, that could hamper the production of vaccines on either side of the Atlantic. Now, this is a very down-to-earth cooperation that we are looking at, and that we hope to be able to continue with the Americans in the coming period. Tommaso. Angela, sorry, you had a follow-up. Apologies, Tommaso. We'll come back to you. Angela.
The US is still there. I was wondering whether you fear that this export ban could limit this cooperation and could help some member states to have a dialogue, so to say, with the Russians. For example, the Spanish government is saying that they are talking with the Russian producers of Sputnik, and they might even authorize it, as far as I read on their newspapers. So don't you fear that this export ban could limit this cooperation and help other ways towards Russia or China from member states? Thanks.
Angela, thank you, Angela. I would take it the other way around. I would say that we know the pressures that exist on public authorities everywhere, including in the United States, when it comes to the production and distribution of vaccines. And therefore, whatever the legal context that exists in the United States, our objective is to try to have with them a constructive dialogue on tangible cooperation that can help both sides deliver the vaccines to their citizens. And we will take it step by step, not based on what necessarily the legal framework is on either side of the Atlantic, but on what our companies, who very often work across the Atlantic, need in order to deliver vaccines to both sides. Tommaso.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Galavotti, Adrian Kronos, Italy. It's kind of follow-up of the questions asked by my colleague Angela Mauro. Is on the EU export mechanism, control mechanism, because I wonder if you're going to prorogate its validity as, if I'm not mistaken, it has a date in which it expires. And the second thing is from the EPP, especially from the EPP, from the German part of the EPP, there are calls to the Commission to be much more proactive and kind of to adopt a more muscular approach towards the US, because they say that Joe Biden is behaving like Donald Trump on vaccines, which is understandable because he won the election just on for a slight margin. And I wonder, and they are even calling the Commission to adopt an outright export ban on vaccines, a blanket export ban. Are you considering this possibility? Thank you.
Thank you very much. On your first question related to the export mechanism, look, you'll have to wait and see what the Commission decides or decides. Actually, we will. You are absolutely right to say that the current mechanism expires at the end of this month, and definitely all options are on the table. So we will come back to this in the very near future. On your second question, look, obviously it is the prerogative of the European Parliament and its constituent members to call on the Commission to take steps in a specific direction. As you know, for the moment, we are in discussion with our American counterparts. As Thierry Breton was saying here yesterday on the podium, it is important for us, I think, to continue to try to do everything that is in our power to ensure that we have the least possible disruption in vaccine deliveries and across supply chains, international supply chains. We have put down a marker with our export transparency and export authorization regulation to show that it is obvious that if we sign an agreement with a company that both supplies the European Union and customers abroad, we expect that company to deliver to us if it wants to be able to export, and that in itself is already a very strong signal. So for the moment, that is our policy, and we negotiate, we cooperate rather with the Americans in order to try to keep supply chains across the Atlantic as open as possible. David.
Merci Eric. David Carretta, Radio Radicale. Trois questions, si je peux. La première, c'est sur Johnson & Johnson. Est-ce que la Commission a été informée de problèmes sur les fournitures du deuxième trimestre? Et est-ce que ce problème est lié au fait que les plans de Johnson & Johnson, au moins au début, prévoyaient d'envoyer les vaccins dans les États-Unis pour les opérations de finiture et fialature, fill and finish en anglais. Deuxième question, par rapport à l'objectif que vous avez fixé comme aspiration, pas celui de la fin de l'été, mais la fin de mars, 80% des personnes prioritaires, plus de 80 ans, et personnel sanitaire, est-ce que ce objectif est encore réalisable? Troisième question, est-ce qu'il y a eu, à part la décision de l'Italie, d'autres décisions de bloquer les exportations à aujourd'hui? Merci.
Alors sur la dernière question, la réponse est non. Sur la deuxième question, objectif de plus de 80, nous continuons à penser que cet objectif est réalisable. Et pour rappel, notre objectif à nous, c'est de faire en sorte que nous puissions livrer les quantités de doses nécessaires pour que les États puissent mener à bien la vaccination en fonction de cet objectif. En ce qui concerne la question sur Johnson & Johnson, je passe la parole à Stéphane.
Merci beaucoup, David, pour ça. Comme tu sais, nous sommes en contact avec toute la société avec qui nous avons des contrats, évidemment, dont Johnson & Johnson. Et le but de nos contacts, c'est toujours d'assurer, comme Eric vient de le dire, d'assurer une livraison d'un nombre suffisant de doses. Donc, on est en contact avec toute la société, on est en contact avec Johnson & Johnson. On ne va pas donner de commentaires sur les problèmes qui pourraient ou ne pourraient pas y avoir dans les contrats, dans nos relations avec un ou l'autre société. Nous continuons à travailler avec toute la société, entre autres avec Johnson & Johnson, dans le cadre de notre comité de pilotage ou steering board, le but toujours étant en effet d'assurer un nombre suffisant de doses tel qu'est prévu dans nos contrats avec ces sociétés. Merci.
David, tu as un follow-up?
Oui, moi je voulais juste savoir si les fournitures de Johnson & Johnson du deuxième trimestre sont confirmées ou pas. Et si je peux ajouter une petite question, j'avais compris que un des critères pour choisir les sociétés dans la stratégie européenne et signer les contrats, c'était avoir la production et toutes les phases de la production en Europe. Pas Union européenne, mais en Europe. Comment ça se fait que Johnson & Johnson a été choisi, même si une partie de la phase avant livraison était prévue dans les États-Unis?
Merci. Sur ta première question, comme tu le sais, David, nous ne confirmons ou n'affirmons pas de calendrier de livraison d'entreprises par trimestre. Nous avons lu les déclarations qui ont été faites par Johnson & Johnson et comme l'a dit Thierry Breton ici hier sur le podium, nous sommes confiants sur le fait que nous pourrons atteindre notre objectif global en ce qui concerne le deuxième trimestre. Maintenant, il est évident que, comme tu le sais, la situation est une situation fluide et c'est pour ça que la présidente a demandé à Thierry Breton d'être en contact régulier, je dirais même quasiment quotidien, avec les entreprises pour pouvoir travailler avec ces entreprises sur tous les moyens qui vont leur permettre de livrer les vaccins. En ce qui concerne ta première question sur les chaînes de production européennes, je passe la parole à Stéphane.
Merci beaucoup. David, en effet, notre stratégie des vaccins prévoit comme un des critères de sélection le fait que la société doit disposer d'une capacité de production dans l'Union européenne. Nous savons tous évidemment aussi que la production de vaccins, c'est une chaîne, ça demande une chaîne de production qui est très compliquée, avec plusieurs phases, donc je ne vais pas me prononcer sur chaque étape de chaque élément, de chaque composante qui serait nécessaire pour arriver à la production d'un vaccin. Il suffit de dire que lorsque nous avons eu nos négociations avec les différentes société dont Johnson & Johnson, la capacité de production de cette société a été évaluée, évidemment, clairement, et qu'on est arrivé à la conclusion, ensemble, Commission et États membres, que la capacité de production de cette société dans l'Union européenne était là et qu'on pouvait donc passer à la conclusion d'un contrat avec la société. Merci.
Merci. Francesco.
Hello, hi, Eric. Just one clarification on about the reply you gave to Bruno, because you said that it seems to be denying what von der Leyen said at the presser again after the European summit on the 25th of February, because at that time von der Leyen clearly said that the UK has mechanisms in place to effectively ban the export of COVID-19 vaccines, let's say finished vaccines. While you, if I'm not wrong, you are saying now that she meant that only that this export bans concerns other drugs, but not vaccines. Can you clarify that? And can you also confirm that AstraZeneca has told you several times that it cannot export vaccines from its UK plants to the EU because there is a sort of UK first clause in its contract with the UK? It's something that AstraZeneca CEO has said publicly as well and has repeatedly told you in meetings. So can you just confirm that? Thanks.
Francesco, why are you asking me to confirm something that has been said publicly by the CEO of a company? It has been said publicly by the CEO of the company, so there's nothing for me to confirm. We read the newspapers and we read Reuters, and therefore we know precisely what the CEO of the company has said. On your first question, I was asked to interpret the comments that had been made by the president, which is what I did. Thomas. Sorry, Thomas, it's on another issue, sorry. So if it's on another issue, we will come back to that. Are there other questions for us on vaccines? Quentin, une question sur les vaccins?
Oui, Eric, est-ce que tu m'entends? C'est bon?
Je t'entends, vas-y.
Super, génial. Non, c'était juste pour que je comprenne bien sur ce que tu viens de dire. Est-ce que la Commission européenne est en mesure de dire actuellement qu'il y a des problèmes avec les deux entreprises britanniques nommées dans le contrat AstraZeneca avec l'Union européenne par rapport à l'arrivée des vaccins produits dans ces usines en Grande-Bretagne qui arrivent en Europe? Parce qu'on a quand même maintenant aussi des fonctionnaires européens qui disent que finalement que le Royaume-Uni n'exporte aucun vaccin vers l'Europe. Donc c'est-à-dire, est-ce qu'il y a un problème avec les usines en Grande-Bretagne?
Mais Quentin, encore une fois, ce n'est pas nous qui le disons, c'est l'entreprise qui a clairement dit que les usines qui étaient situées au Royaume-Uni étaient dédiées à la production de vaccins pour le Royaume-Uni. Et nous avons eu ici d'interminables débats sur le fait que, quelles que soient les déclarations faites par l'entreprise, comme ces deux usines sont mentionnées dans notre contrat, nous considérons qu'elle devrait pouvoir contribuer à l'effort d'AstraZeneca pour la livraison de vaccins à l'Union européenne. Comme chacun le sait, et cela a été dit à de nombreuses reprises aussi, nous avons un décalage important entre les attentes que nous avons par rapport aux livraisons d'AstraZeneca et la réalité de ce qui nous arrive, de ce qui nous est livré. Et donc, de ce fait, il est clair qu'il y a une grosse marge d'amélioration disponible en ce qui concerne les livraisons faites par cette entreprise, que ce soit de ces usines britanniques ou d'autres sites de production qu'AstraZeneca peut avoir. Veja.
Oh, it's me?
I don't know. I'm not sure I pronounce your name correctly. Wei. Okay, I will try.
Question. So I have a question regarding the President Charles Michel's newsletter sent out yesterday, which he actually singled out China and Russia. Basically, I just read 2 sentences. We should not let ourselves misled by China and Russia. Both regimes have less desirable values than ours. They organize highly limited but widely publicized operation to supply vaccine to others. So basically, I don't want to read everything, but he said, and Europe will not use vaccine for propaganda purposes. We promote our values. I don't know. I mean, why is this EU policy? Why he want to send such a message? Because this is, to me, it's like a politicizing, undermining the solidarity globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. As I said before, I'm certainly not going to interpret the comments made by the President of the European Council. You know what the position of the European Union is when it comes to the possibility for vaccines to be marketed on the territory of the European Union. And more globally, we believe in international solidarity, and we, as European Union, are making the best effort we can in order to provide financing, to provide solutions for the availability of vaccines. It's really not for me to comment on other people's comments, first of all, and on and other countries' efforts when it comes to the provision of vaccines to third countries. Naomi, a question on vaccines?
Yes, thanks, Eric. Naomi O'Leary, Irish Times. Just a quick follow-up on Quentin's question. So just to confirm and recap, the company said it had a UK first contract. You guys asked for them to use their factories in the UK to at least give the EU a fair shake of the doses that were being produced there. Can I just confirm that they haven't done that? They haven't tapped the UK supply chain for the EU? And then my second question is about, is there any evidence that AstraZeneca has been stockpiling doses in the EU ahead of an expectation that the export ban, or not export ban, export controls will lapse at the end of the month? These would be doses intended for export outside the EU. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Look, on your first question, I do not have figures that I could give you on the deliveries coming from this or that factory from AstraZeneca to us, in particular from the UK. The fact of the matter is that when we signed the contract with AstraZeneca, there was a clause in that contract saying that no other agreement that they had could impede the delivery of the services, or the products rather, that were the subject of the contract with us. And it's really not for us to comment on the agreements that a company with whom we are dealing has with other parties. It's perfectly natural and legitimate for companies to have more than one customer, obviously. But they have a contract with the European Union. In that contract, we had put a certain number of factories in after dialogue with the company, and therefore we expect the company to be able to deliver based on this manufacturing base. It's not that the contract says so many doses need to come from one factory, so many doses from another, et cetera, et cetera. It's for the company to organize its manufacturing process. But it is also the company's responsibility, based on its broad manufacturing base, to be able to deliver to the European Union. This has always been our position, and it doesn't change. For all the other details, I would like you to address yourself to the company. As to whether the company is stockpiling or not, again, it's not for us to say. We are in the business of trying to get the doses that are meant for us. We have put in place a measure that allows us to have a clear view of when a company wants to export. We haven't said that we're going to go and see whether companies are stockpiling doses. That's a question you have to address to the company. Okay. Thomas, I know your question is on something else. Lawrence, is your question on vaccines?
You'll be delighted to know that it is.
Then you have the floor.
Eric, yeah, I'm just going to pick up your words. As you say, this has been an interminable debate around AstraZeneca, and the EU's opinion has not changed at all, that the company has not done what it is supposed to have done. And AstraZeneca, as far as we can see, has failed to move beyond 40 million doses for the first quarter, and there are still very big questions about the second quarter. At the beginning of this interminable debate, there was a discussion about whether legal action would be taken. It hasn't, as far as I'm aware. Is that now off the table? Is it still on the table? And if it's not on the table, why after so long?
Look, I think, Norman, the issue that the European Union faces is one of getting vaccines delivered to European citizens. And we are following a route of discussion with the company. It is now Thierry Breton's job to do this. And as he has said himself, it is a job that he pursues very intensively. And we will continue to work to get the company to deliver on the doses that we have signed. Now, clearly, nothing is ever off the table, but for the moment, we are working to make sure that the company delivers as many doses of the vaccine as possible and can get as close as possible to what is in the advanced purchasing agreement that we have. Okay, I see no further questions on health and vaccines, so I go back to Thomas on animal welfare.
Yes, thank you. I don't know if I need to summarize the story, but it's these two ships that sailed from Spain in December full of calves and young bulls, and they were refused by Turkey and Libya because they were suspected to have blue tongue, so they sailed in dire conditions for well over 2 months, a bit all over the Mediterranean, and in the end went back to Spain, where all the animals were put to sleep because they were too debilitated to remain alive. So the animal welfare organizations this morning, they are a bit all over the place, and they also call it a failure of the European legislation on animal transport, and they're calling also for changes in the portfolio of Ms. Kyriakides, saying that she should have more prominent competencies. So I wonder whether you had ever said anything on this story, whether you think it's a matter for the European Commission, and you have any reactions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Thomas. A question for Stéphane, who is fighting on every front. Stéphane.
Thank you very much. I don't think I'm in a position to say something about the comments made by the organization you refer to. What I would like to stress, though, is that Commissioner Kyriakides has followed this situation closely over the past week and has had contacts with the relevant authorities of the member states concerned. We should indeed not forget that, first, the Commission attaches quite a lot of importance to the issue of animal transport, but indeed that animal welfare is mainly a matter of national competence. So it's with the national member states to make sure that this is being followed. This being said, the Commissioner, as I said, Commissioner Kyriakides is following the situation closely, asking member states to helping to ensure that short-term solutions are found to ensure the welfare and health of the animals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stéphane. Are there other questions for us today on other topics? Ekrem.
Thank you, Eric. My question is for, I guess, for Peter Stano on Bosnia. And last week, Russian Foreign Ministry and the leader of Bosnia, Sir Milorad Dodik, once again reiterated they call for closure of the office of the High Representative. I'm wondering, does the EU or Commission in this case agrees with the interpretation of Mr. Dodik that the reappointment or the new head of the office should be done in full agreement with the signing parties, sides of the Dayton Agreement, and at the same time in agreement with the members of Security Council?
Peter.
Thank you, Ekrem. Hi. Well, later today, this afternoon, actually, the High Representative Josep Borrell will have a meeting with the Foreign Minister of Bosnia and Herzegovina. All these issues might be raised there, so I'm not going to preempt the content of the discussions and views expressed there. But I can tell you when it comes to the arrangement and the establishment of Bosnia and Herzegovina and all the current arrangements around how the country is being governed and functions, The position of the EU has not changed. The position of the EU is not aligned with one politician or another, is aligned with international law, decisions by relevant international bodies, and it's based on EU values and principles. And the High Representative and also Commissioner responsible for enlargement have said repeatedly that it's time for Bosnia and Herzegovina to start to move from Dayton to Brussels, because Bosnia and Herzegovina has European aspirations, and you can reach and achieve the European aspirations only through intense reform efforts and only by going the European path, and the European path goes with the support of Brussels.
Ekrem, you have a follow-up.
Peter, sorry, but that does not answer my question. I know what the Foreign Minister of Bosnia told yesterday at a press conference with the German Foreign Ministry. So I repeat again my question. Does the European Commission agree with the interpretation of Milorad Dodik, who is member of Bosnia's presidency, Bosnia's presidency, and the leader of the party who decides? So what is the interpretation of the European Commission on the Annex 10 of the Dayton Agreement? Well, do you share this opinion or not?
Again, I can only repeat that our positions and our views are not based in sharing or not sharing the interpretations or opinions of individual politicians. Our positions are based, and our positions, decisions are based on European principles, European values, and international agreements and international law. So this is what I can say about it. We are not in the business of interpreting or agreeing or disagreeing publicly with whatever individual politicians are saying. What we are saying is that Bosnia and Herzegovina has a clear European perspective. It's up to the political leaders in Bosnia and Herzegovina to do whatever they can in order to deliver on this perspective, and Brussels is ready to help Bosnia and Herzegovina to advance on this path, and the positions of the EU are very clearly defined. They are not being changed based on interpretation of one politician.
Ekrem, last follow-up on this.
Yes, but if you are not going to interpret the position of Dodik, can you clarify whether do you agree with the opinion of Mr. Sergei Lavrov of Russia on the same topic?
Again, I can only repeat what I said before, that our positions and opinions are based on decisions by the EU member states, on European values and principles, and international decisions and international law. Our positions are not determined by views, feelings, or interpretations by politicians from whatever part of the world.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions for us today? Lawrence, apologies for having, I think, called you Norman, perhaps. I must be slightly dyslexic. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Eric, don't worry. The Baron does it all the time. You're well ahead of him. This is a very simple one. Where are we on our so far frustrated attempt to get the US and the Iranians to sit around an EU table?
Well, efforts of the EU are never frustrated. They are ongoing, and there is nothing new I can report in addition to what we were discussing last week. This is the time for diplomacy to be working, and the diplomacy is working. The High Representative and colleagues are working hard in order to achieve the situation when we get the nuclear deal back on track, and we are in intense and regular contacts with all the relevant partners on this.
So we continue on foreign affairs. Nawab.
Yes, thank you. I have a question on Myanmar. Has the EU taken a decision to put sanctions on the military regime there? Thank you.
Thank you. A question for Nabila. So Nabila has both the paper and the iPad now.
Yeah, I'm working on being very green.
Some room for improvement. Go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Nawab, for your question. As you know, at the Foreign Affairs Council on the 22nd of February 2021, the EU foreign ministers gave their political agreement to apply sanctions against the military and their economic interests. So far, work has already started to this end with a view to concluding as soon as possible, while ensuring that legal justification are thorough.
Thank you. Are there other questions on Myanmar or on other foreign relations issues for us? It's not the case. On other issues? No, so thank you very much and see you tomorrow. Have a nice afternoon.